Well, the war in Ukraine is far from over. This is according to the leaders of the European Union as Russia continues to bombard Ukraine. Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin issuing a stern warning to the US to stop supplying Ukraine with arms. For more on these latest developments, we're joined by Sergio Olmos in the Ukraine capital of Kiev. Sergio, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. Give us a view of Kiev this hour following heavy bombardment.
That's right. I'm here in Kyiv, Ukraine, where just a few hours ago we heard air raid sirens and delivery services of couriers and everything stopped. And we've been hearing air raid sirens in the daytime, which has become rare, but we've been hearing it for the last few days. But what we heard last night was explosions, loud explosions that you could hear all throughout Kyiv. And we woke up this morning to the news that Russian officials say they struck a factory on the outskirts of Kyiv near the airport that was reportedly making missiles, anti-ship missiles, they say. And it's widely thought that this is in response as a retaliation to the sinking of Moskva, the Russian flagship of their Black Sea fleet that the Ukrainian military says they fired Neptune rockets at and sunk. And as you know, this is the ship that became famous when, in the early hours of the war, they went cruising off Snake Island. They gave soldiers there an ultimatum to surrender. And those soldiers defied them and gave a profanity-laced tirade that has become a slogan in this country, something that everyday Ukrainians drink to when they toast. And so these explosions in Kyiv are happening now as a result.
In the aftermath of that, what can you tell us about damage?
About damage, yeah. So the strikes were confined to that factory as far as we know. I'm in the city center where there is no signs of damage here, and life is continuing on today. I mean, people are not stopping. Shops are open, businesses are open, taxis are driving around. The city center remains undamaged from the attack last night.
Yeah. So, Sergio, the U.S. announcing it will send an official to Kiev, and are we likely to see President Joe Biden visiting Ukraine?
I'm sorry, are you asking about Joe Biden visiting Ukraine?
Yeah, I'm sorry for the patchy comms if you're struggling to hear me, Sergio, but we heard an announcement by the U.S. that it will send an official to Kiev, and the question is whether we're likely to see that person be President Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's right. The press secretary spoke about this today and said that it is unlikely Joe Biden will be visiting the capital, but they are sending a high-level official here, and this is following the presidents of Poland and Lithuania and Estonia that visited this week to speak with President Zelensky. And so the United States not only sending a high-level official to come speak to the president, but they've also, President Biden announced that he would give $800 million in military aid to Ukraine, and some of those shipments are scheduled to be coming in now or soon. And President Zelensky on Tuesday said he had sincere gratitude for the $800 million military equipment that the United States is providing.
Speaking of President Zelensky, I want to talk about Ukraine's strategy now as the war continues. There was talk and concern from the president that Putin could deploy nuclear weapons. How credible is that, or what is the likelihood looking like based on what you're hearing from experts?
Yeah, so President Zelensky has talked about the threat of nuclear weapons from the Russian armed forces. From what the president has articulated, it is a possibility that the fear is that with Russian armed forces taking heavy losses, for example, here where I am in the north of Ukraine, in Kyiv, in the capital region, Russian armed forces have left this area. They tried to take Kyiv in a swift action and couldn't. They were repelled and got bogged down, and they eventually abandoned this area after heavy losses. And now Russian armed forces are focused on the east of Ukraine, and the Donbass region, cities like Mariupol, which is heavy fighting. And they've appointed a new military commander, a man who was given the moniker the Butcher of Syria. So while the war is strong and rages on in the eastern part of the country, President Zelensky is articulating that, as slow achievement occurs, as they get more frustrated, that the risk of President Putin contemplating the use of nuclear weapons is real. And we should note that, as of right now, we have no reports of nuclear weapons being put in the field or anything like that. And so we should temper kind of our understanding of this. But it is not to be discounted that Ukrainian officials do think this is a possibility.
Yeah. We've got to be really circumspect, given the sort of precipitous environment that we're in. Sergio, thank you very much for that update. SABC News correspondent Sergio Olmos, live for us from Kyiv.